Hi everyone, Charles from The Food People here. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. It's my great pleasure to welcome one of the hottest chefs in the UK right now, Paul Ainsworth. Paul joins me today to talk about what motivates him and why, how the team are at the core of all that they do at Paul Ainsworth Restaurants, his culinary inspiration, the rich and diverse bounty of Cornwall, and I'm sure a raft of other topics. So welcome, Paul, and thank you for joining me for the second time today as part of the Food People in Conversation With. Well, since we last spoke in November, kind of a lot's happened. You've moved up the tiers and now we're in a full national lockdown. How have the last few months been really for you?
Well, the last few months have been, good. In a nutshell, if we sort of go back to July 4th, coming out of lockdown one, anyone in Cornwall that wasn't busy, should sort of, have a bit of a look at their business really, because we, as a county, we just got absolutely, awash with people coming down and, generally in a good mood and wanting to sort of, spend their money in the county. And that was brilliant for all businesses and everybody, not just businesses, but employment, and the whole sort of, economy for Cornwall was thriving. Yeah. Then we go into lockdown in November. That was more of a break, I suppose, Charles. Wow. It was, we shut the businesses for a month. The teams were very, very sort of tired after a very, very busy summer. Yeah. One of our busiest on record. Wow. Then I suppose if we go now to this third lockdown, that was a bit more difficult to manage. We had 9 hours notice. The announcement was made at 3:30 in the afternoon on the 30th. Yeah. As you can imagine, we were geared up for the new year.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm imagining that at that point when that happened, that you literally had walk-in fridges and larders just teeming with ingredients and produce and so on, ready to roll out across the remainder of the festive period. Did you manage to run everything out across the different outlets that you had?
Yeah, as best we could. Like I say, we came up with a plan, and I then put a huge hit to social media. I was recording videos. You may have seen it. I was doing video after video. I was doing post after post, just showing people, look, come and get this. It's absolutely amazing. It's super delicious. Come and have it. And people responded, so the response to it was phenomenal.
Are you running? Have you chosen to run kind of takeaway, or have you closed completely?
We did takeaway in lockdown one, more so just to do something. Yeah. When you take everything away from it, Charles, it's completely and utterly not worth doing for us. Yeah. And what makes it not worth doing for us is I've said this, and and I'm probably repeating myself from the first one. If you're not in business, the easiest way to look at what this is and what this whole crisis means to a business is your own personal outgoings in life. Probably your rent or your mortgage is your biggest outgoing in your life.
Yeah. Living and working in Cornwall, it's obviously an incredibly beautiful place to work and to live. And I want to talk about Cornwall and the bounty of Cornwall in a few minutes' time. But how do you go about attracting the next generation of chefs and indeed other members of the team to come down and perhaps leave the big smoke and come and live down in Cornwall? How do you do that and make it worthwhile, I suppose?
I think what you do now is you've got to use the outside more as well. And I'm really noticing that in my own team. So many of my own team now. When I first started here, we had quite a lot of youngsters that they just would go home and stay in their rooms, and Facebook had just become a thing. And, and I think what's happening now is it's going full circle. People are really understanding that social media is a great tool, but it also can be a negative tool. Yeah. And I think I'm certainly seeing in my team that a lot of them are kind of spending less time on social media and embracing sort of exercise and the outdoors. Now,
why it is that you do what you do? What is it that you're trying to achieve? What's at the end of that? And you probably never get there, but what's kind of at the end of the road that you're kind of going after that keeps moving forward for you?
When you are like that in life and you are kind of go, 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 And then you get to that point in your life where you're like, you think it's about sort of going on the golf course or whatever passion it is you've got, and fishing and stuff like that. I don't think it works like that. And I really think that, like, I've really changed my outlook, that there isn't some sort of end goal. What there is trying to inspire the next generation, trying to achieve brilliant things within what we do.
Oh, brilliant. Listen, I want to talk a little bit more about culinary and as well with you, if that's possible. And we've touched on Cornwall and the bounty of Cornwall and that kind of thing. What are some of the gems that you've found, that you've come across, suppliers, ingredients that are offered within the county of Cornwall that you've discovered along the way?
Where do you start? I mean, I've got to start with the first person that I really got to know, Johnny Godden of Flying Fish. He's a dear friend, and I love him to bits, and I love him to bits because he never ever deviated away from his goal. And his goal, Charles, was to supply the best restaurants in the United Kingdom.
Another question: when you kind of construct a dish, what is and it might be that there isn't a formula, but what's your kind of journey from, are you starting with the ingredients, or have you got a vision for what something might look like? How do you kind of get from, actually, here's a collection of amazing ingredients to a dish? How does that work for you?
The inspiration comes from everywhere. So, it can be from eating out. It can be from reading a bedtime story. Yeah. I get very, I'm a massive Roald Dahl fan. I'm a massive, Quentin Blake fan. And like, I get so inspired a lot of the time by, because a lot of children's storybooks are kind of food led. Yeah. And they have like nods to food and stuff. Inspiration comes from anywhere and everywhere.
Listen, I know that as part of being and living and working in Cornwall, and also outside of that, there are certain causes for you that are really, really close to your heart. Some that are connected with the industry, others outside of that. Can you just tell us about some of the things that excite you, some of those kind of causes that you're aligned with?
So she told us about the Cornwall Air Ambulance, which actually I didn't really know a lot about. It was very much like I knew so much about the RNLI, but I didn't know much about the Cornwall Air Ambulance. And they're so similar. They're not fun. They don't get any funding. They don't get any help. But by Christ, how important are they to Cornwall?
We talked about the future of fine dining, and I think we both agree that there clearly was a future despite pandemic and everything that's going on around us. But how do you see that space evolving into the future?
Charles, I nothing but positivity for it. Nothing. I mean, that word fine dining, I suppose I was watching the program the other day as well, and it was, it was about like, going to a Michelin star restaurant is really unhealthy. Why? Yeah. How can it be? Some of them might be cooking with, more richer products, like more butter, more fat, more cream in that. These restaurants, if you want to call it fine dining or whatever label you want to put under, like, these restaurants are sourcing the best ingredients on the planet, the finest fish, the finest meat, the finest vegetables, the finest dairy. Like anything, too much of anything is bad. So to me, I don't look at it as like fine dining. I look at these places is that and there are millions, billions of people on the planet that want to spend their money, their hard-earned money, on going somewhere where the chef, the team, the front of house are working really, really hard to give you an unbelievable food experience. Yeah.
So do join our TFP community for the details of all of our latest In Conversation With episodes, as well as the latest free to access food and drink trends foresight. Visit thefoodpeople.co.uk and complete your details at the footer of the page. On behalf of Paul and myself, thank you so much for listening to the Food People In Conversation With. I'll just leave you with one question. How are you shifting the future of food and drink? Thanks for listening.